It has been years now, years since the world first encountered the coronavirus pandemic, years since lockdowns reshaped our daily lives, years since millions of people fell ill and recovered, or at least that is what everyone assumed. For a significant portion of the global population, recovery never truly came. Instead, what followed was something far more confusing, far more debilitating, and far more misunderstood than the acute illness itself. Long COVID fatigue, a condition that has lingered well beyond 2026, continues to affect countless individuals worldwide, leaving them trapped in a cycle of exhaustion that no amount of sleep, rest, or conventional treatment seems to fix. This is not ordinary tiredness. This is not the kind of fatigue that disappears after a good night's sleep or a relaxing weekend. This is a profound, crushing, all-consuming exhaustion that changes lives, breaks spirits, and challenges the very foundation of modern medicine. When people first started reporting unusual fatigue months after their COVID-19 infection, many doctors dismissed it as anxiety, depression, or simple deconditioning. Society was not ready to accept that a viral infection could leave behind such a complex and persistent legacy. Patients were told to exercise more, eat better, think positively, and simply push through. But pushing through made things worse, much worse. For those living with long COVID fatigue, exertion, whether physical or mental, triggers a phenomenon known as post-exertional malaise, where symptoms dramatically worsen after even minimal activity. A short walk to the kitchen, a brief phone conversation, or a few minutes of reading could send someone with this condition into a multi-day crash, leaving them bedridden and barely functional. This was not laziness. This was not weakness. This was biology behaving in ways that science was only beginning to understand. By the time 2026 arrived, researchers had made some progress in understanding the mechanisms behind long COVID fatigue. Studies pointed to several possible explanations: mitochondrial dysfunction, where the energy-producing parts of cells fail to work properly; microclots circulating in the bloodstream, blocking oxygen delivery to tissues; persistent viral reservoirs hiding in various organs long after the initial infection; immune dysregulation, where the body's defense system remains activated in a chaotic and self-destructive loop; and autonomic nervous system dysfunction, which disrupts basic bodily functions like heart rate, blood pressure regulation, and digestion. These findings validated what patients had been saying all along, that their suffering was real, measurable, and biological. Yet, despite this growing body of research, a definitive cure remained elusive. Treatments were largely experimental, symptom management was inconsistent, and many patients continued to fall through the cracks of healthcare systems that were not designed to handle such a complex, multi-system condition. The daily reality of living with long COVID fatigue is difficult to fully communicate to someone who has never experienced it. Imagine waking up every morning feeling as though you never slept at all. Imagine your body feeling like it is made of concrete, heavy and unresponsive. Imagine your brain wrapped in thick fog, unable to string together coherent thoughts, unable to find words, unable to concentrate on even the simplest tasks. Now imagine this being your reality, not for a day, not for a week, but for months, years, with no clear end in sight. Many long COVID patients who were once active, productive, and vibrant individuals have been reduced to spending most of their days lying down, managing their energy in tiny, carefully rationed amounts. They have had to leave jobs, abandon careers, withdraw from social lives, and hand over responsibilities they once handled with ease. The economic impact has been staggering, but the personal toll, the grief, the identity loss, the sense of helplessness is perhaps even harder to quantify. Mental health has suffered enormously alongside physical health. Living with an invisible illness that others cannot see and often refuse to believe is psychologically devastating. Long COVID patients have reported widespread experiences of medical gaslighting, where healthcare professionals minimized or dismissed their symptoms.
Friends and family members, unable to witness any visible signs of illness, sometimes grew frustrated or skeptical. Social isolation compounded the suffering. Depression and anxiety became constant companions for many, not as the cause of their fatigue, but as a natural consequence of living with chronic, poorly understood illness in a world that was not built to support them. Support groups, both online and in person, became lifelines for many patients, providing community, validation, and shared information in the absence of adequate medical support. Children and young adults have been among the most heartbreaking casualties of long COVID fatigue. Young people who should have been attending school, building friendships, exploring their potential, and enjoying the energy of youth were instead confined to beds and sofas, struggling to function. Parents watched helplessly as their children missed years of education and social development. Teachers, employers, and institutions scrambled to adapt, or in many cases failed to adapt, to the needs of those affected. Disability accommodations remained inconsistent, awareness remained inadequate, and stigma remained pervasive even years after the pandemic's initial peak. Research by 2026 had identified several promising therapeutic avenues. Low-dose naltrexone showed some benefit in reducing neuroinflammation. Antihistamines were helping a subset of patients manage mast cell activation symptoms. Pacing strategies, the careful management of energy expenditure to avoid post-exertional crashes, became the cornerstone of rehabilitation programs. Some clinics began offering comprehensive, multidisciplinary care, combining cardiology, neurology, immunology, and psychology under one roof. Antiviral treatments were being explored as potential tools to eliminate viral persistence, but access to these
Emerging treatments remained deeply unequal, with wealthier patients and those in better resourced countries having far more options than others. What long COVID fatigue has ultimately revealed is something the medical and scientific community must sit with uncomfortably. For decades, conditions predominantly affecting women, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, dysautonomia, were dismissed, underfunded, and poorly researched. Long COVID, which disproportionately affects women and shares remarkable overlap with these previously neglected conditions, arrived like a mirror held up to these historic failures. The millions suffering now are not new, they are the continuation of a long tradition of patients whose invisible suffering was deemed unworthy of serious attention. The difference now is scale. So many people became sick so quickly that ignorance became harder to sustain. As we move deeper into the mid-2020s and beyond, the global health conversation must center the voices of those still struggling. Long COVID fatigue is not a relic of the past. It is a present crisis, ongoing and urgent. People are still unable to work, still unable to care for themselves, still waiting for answers that science is slowly, too slowly, providing. The path forward demands serious investment in research, compassionate and informed medical care, robust disability support systems, and above all, a fundamental cultural shift in how we understand and respond to invisible illness. The exhaustion is real, the suffering is real, and the need for solutions has never been more urgent.